Hey everyone, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to solve a massive everyday puzzle. How are the prices for the things we buy actually determined? If you've ever found yourself just scratching your head wondering why the cost of your everyday items constantly shifts around, well, you're in the exact right place to figure it all out. I mean, seriously, why does a flight cost 3,000 rupees one day and then, bam, a massive 9,000 the very next day? No way, right? Or think about seasonal mangoes. They're usually super expensive right at the start of the season, but then they get way cheaper just a few weeks later. We literally all experience these, quite frankly, frustrating real-world price fluctuations. It feels totally random, but I promise you, there's a real, distinct logic behind the whole shebang. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the daily price puzzle. Second, the buyer's side, which is demand. Third, the seller's side, supply. Fourth, finding market equilibrium. And finally, real-world price dynamics. Let's get to it. Starting off with Section 1, the daily price puzzle. You see, the core of all these crazy price changes really just boils down to a super simple equation. Price is simply the result of demand, which is what people actually want to buy, interacting with supply, which is what sellers actually have available. Think about a massive cricket match in Delhi. Right when the match ends, thousands of people suddenly want a cab home at the exact same time. So the demand absolutely skyrockets, but the supply of cabs out on the road, it stays exactly the same. Because demand is way greater than supply, we get hit with that incredibly painful surge pricing, and cab fares just shoot through the roof. It's frustrating for sure, but when the crowd eventually clears out, demand drops, and those prices fall right back down. It's this continuous, highly dynamic response system.
Moving on to Section 2, the buyer's side, demand.
Okay, let's zoom in on the first half of that equation and step directly into the shoes of the buyer. Now, there's a really crucial economic difference we've got to clear up right off the bat, and that's desire versus effective demand. Think about it. You might really want a 1 lakh rupee phone, but if you don't actually have the cash in hand to buy it, well, it's just a desire. It doesn't actually move the needle in the market at all. Effective demand, on the other hand, is when you have 100 rupees of pocket money and you actually go out and use it to buy a 100-rupee pizza. So demand isn't just about wanting something, right? It's your desire plus your actual willingness and ability to pay for it. That's a real game changer. Let's actually look at how this plays out in real life with some mangoes. When the price is super high, let's say 150 rupees a kilo, a buyer might just bite the bullet and purchase a single kilo. But watch what happens as that price drops. If the price falls to 100 rupees, the demand bumps up to 2 kilos. And at 50 rupees, it hits 3 kilos. This perfectly illustrates the fundamental law of demand. As the price goes down, the quantity of buyer demands naturally goes up. It's like clockwork. But wait, why does our willingness to pay drop as we get more of something? Well, it's all because of this fascinating concept called diminishing marginal utility. Let's break that down using our pizza example from earlier. Think about that very first slice of pizza. It's amazing, right? 5 stars. You'd absolutely pay top dollar for it. But by the time you hit the third slice, it's still good, but you're probably only giving it 3 stars. And by the 5th slice, you're completely stuffed. You honestly wouldn't even want it if someone literally paid you to eat it. So, as your satisfaction naturally decreases with each extra unit you consume, your willingness to pay drops right along with it. Now, of course, price isn't the only thing that changes demand. There's a whole bunch of other factors that can shift it entirely. Take substitutes, for example. If coffee suddenly gets outrageously expensive, you might just swap it out and start demanding tea instead. Or consider complementary goods. Those are things you naturally buy together. Like if movie tickets get way too pricey, fewer people go to the cinema, which means the demand for popcorn automatically tanks too. Throw in things like changes in household income, seasonal shifts, like suddenly needing warm sweaters in winter, or just changing trends, and you can see these all play a massive role in what buyers actually want. All right, moving right along to Section 3, the seller side, supply. Now we're going to flip the script entirely and look at the seller's reality. The law of supply actually works in the exact opposite way to demand. Picture yourself as a mango seller. If the going market price is only 50 rupees a kilo, you might only bother supplying 1 single kilo. It's just not really worth the effort for you. But if that price suddenly shoots up to 150 rupees, oh man, suddenly it's highly profitable. You have a crystal clear incentive to supply more, so you happily offer up 3 kilos. You see, for sellers, price and quantity move in the exact same direction. Higher prices give them a huge incentive to supply way more goods. This brings us to Section 4, finding market equilibrium. So the big question is, what actually happens when buyers who are hunting for low prices and sellers who are chasing high prices finally crash into each other? Well, let's look at a school canteen to see how they find this thing called market equilibrium. Step 1. The canteen prices their sandwiches at 50 rupees. Because it's so cheap, 100 students want them, but the canteen only made 40. Uh-oh, we've got a shortage. And because of that shortage, step 2 kicks in. The canteen raises the price to 70 rupees, which brings us to step 3. At 70 rupees, some students are just like, nope, too expensive, so the demand drops down to 60 students. Meanwhile, that higher price actually gives the canteen a nice incentive to make more, so they increase their supply to 60. Now, 60 students want sandwiches, and the canteen supplies exactly 60. Boom, they've naturally settled at this perfect compromise. That right there is market equilibrium. Just to quickly summarize the mechanics behind these market imbalances, excess demand creates a shortage. Just like in our canteen example, when 100 people want something but only 40 actually exist, buyers end up literally competing with each other, and that naturally pushes the prices right up. On the flip side of that coin, we have excess supply, which is basically a surplus. Imagine the canteen makes 100 sandwiches, but only 30 students actually want to buy them. To avoid just throwing them all in the trash, the sellers are forced to offer discounts and drop the price. It's fascinating, really. Markets are just constantly, naturally pushing themselves toward balance. Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, Real-World Price Dynamics. Let's actually take all these textbook rules and apply them to messy, dynamic, real-world events. The story of COVID-19 masks is just a perfect illustration of how equilibrium isn't some permanently fixed thing. It's constantly adjusting to world events. Think back to pre-2020, right? We had a totally normal mask equilibrium. Prices were low, perfectly stable. But then March 2020 hit. Demand just massively spiked practically overnight, creating sheer panic. And supply, it completely failed to keep up. This huge, frantic shortage caused prices to absolutely skyrocket almost instantly. But as we know, the market responds. By August 2020, the panic kind of settled as mass production really kicked in. Supply increased dramatically to meet that crazy new demand, and prices calmly dropped back down to a brand new normal. Just to really cement how these forces interact to create the final price, demand comes from the buyers, and it pushes downwards. For them, price and quantity move completely opposite to each other. Supply, on the other hand, comes from the sellers, pushing upwards. For sellers, price and quantity move in the exact same direction. Together, these two fundamental building blocks dictate the cost of literally everything around us. As we wrap this up, I really want to leave you with a crucial thought about long-term sustainability. If we heavily overuse Delhi's groundwater today, what on earth happens to the supply and the price of water tomorrow? By exhausting our natural resources right now, future supply will inevitably shrink. And, well, as we've literally just learned, when supply drops and demand stays high, future prices are absolutely going to soar. Today's consumption directly alters tomorrow's market. Just something to keep in mind the very next time you look at the price tag of a seasonal item. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.